it wasn't until I started creating content where I really like pulled back on going crazy with the betting. I still bet. I love to do it. I'll never not do it. It's become in moderation for me, and I'm a $50 to $100 better, and I gotta really like something, Mo. If you see me bet something for $100, I gotta have a lot of conviction. I gotta feel really passionate about it, and it's recreational money. And the other thing with the betting space, and even like with the picks, right? What we try to do here on the show, it's a little bit of entertainment. That's why we call it the best sports betting vibe on the internet. You're gonna learn some shit about the betting community. You're gonna learn some fun stuff. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but then also like we give out good picks too. You know what I'm saying? So I hope I answered your question. I know I kind of was going all over the place, but that's kind of like the gist of the betting space. It's a very popular one.
No, you definitely answered my question. And I was asking myself, I said, when you started describing that you was getting this other level of dopamine from giving people good information, I can't imagine that that does it, but it was just good insight nonetheless.
Yeah, man, it's a real thing, dude. Because for me, right, like I don't bet as many things. In the past, I used to bet in a weekend like 50 stuff. Now it's like seven, but I'm betting a little bit more. But I also feel stronger about what I'm betting on. And then, of course, we do a lot of
Yeah.
the bets that we make. Full transparency, Mo. It's all for the show. Like we don't expect to hit these five leg anytime touchdown guys that pay 50 to 1. It's cool for content. We do bet it just so we can have the ticket if it does hit, but that's not like where our main focus is. There's stuff that we do for content, and then there's stuff that we do like for the pockets, and sometimes they coincide. Like Bijan Robinson, for example. Mo, I don't know if you know this because we really got close maybe like 2 years ago, but you're talking to someone that's correctly picked the offensive player of the year in three straight seasons. I've picked the MVP in the NFL two of the last 3 years. You know what I'm saying? You're an analyst and great at your job. I'm also an analyst and great at my job. That's why us two together, we make magic on the shows. Pause,
Yeah, I
super
get
pause.
it.
So Bijan Robinson, right? I last year, dude, and this is a good way to get into the conversation with you, right? Because you always talk about like the it factor and what separates someone and what makes them special. Last year, I'll never forget this because it happened when Michael Penix Jr. became the starter for the Falcons. They ran a stop and go route with Bijan Robinson, and he overthrew him by maybe 15 yards. And I immediately text all my buddies and I said, Bijan Robinson is winning Offensive Player of the Year next year. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, listen, they're gonna do things with Bijan Robinson that they haven't done yet. And I said in the offseason, he could go for 1K, 1K. He has over 800 yards from scrimmage in 5 games because they've already had a bye week. It's on pace for that. He was 20 to 1 in the summer. Now he's 3 to 1. My question to you is, do you ever watch people and get that sense where you're like, something special is about to happen with this player?
Yeah, I see it all the time. It's just people who, and I guess when you look at so many players, you get an idea of like where players rank amongst one another. Just whatever the standard is for wide receiver, whatever the standard is for running back, or whatever the standard is for quarterback, and whoever it is, and then you'll end up seeing somebody that just breaks that entire mold, and you understand that they can either climb the charts very fast in regards to the current people who are out there, or they just have like a special talent. You take Ohio State in general. We have a kid named Jeremiah Smith, and people call him JJ. And from the time that I seen him, when he came to Ohio State as a freshman, you can see that he basically broke the mold from a height, a speed standpoint to things that he can do, and he had what you have from a physical standpoint, which is the it factor, and then all the other stuff, the work ethic, and all the other stuff that's paired with it. But I see athletes like that all the time. I know we get caught into these labels of calling them generational talents, and we tend to hype people up a little bit more just because of social media, and it sounds good. But I'm telling you, they're just people, man, who study the game and they see what's out there, and for one reason or another, they get their chance and they explode onto the scene. Pause, and make a splash into that the world of athletics or whatever it is that they're doing.
Man, I love that you brought up Jeremiah Smith. I know it's close to home for you, and it was one of the questions that I really wanted to ask you. Talking about special talents, I feel like Ohio State, if a wide receiver comes out and goes to the NFL, it's like he's gonna start on your fantasy team at some point. It's like the running joke is like this dude's gonna ball out, right? There's just something about it.
Mhm.
There's been a very passionate conversation on social media in the football community the last couple of weeks with the emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then obviously you have like Garrett Wilson in the league, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka also. He's, I know he got hurt in the last game. I missed a couple of weeks, but he was the offensive rookie of the year favorite prior to him getting hurt. You have Terry McLaurin. You go back a couple of years, you had guys like Michael Thomas Jr. also. I think Ohio State collectively is wide receiver U. LSU at the top, the two guys who are probably the two best receivers in the league, yeah, you got them. And I know I love Malik Neighbors. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is great also. But I think if you're ranking receivers right now, it starts with Chase and Jefferson, and then it's way more Ohio State than LSU. My question to you, and you see this all the time being a part of the organization over there, what happens, I should say, at Ohio State that this is the position that they just produce Hall of Fame talent every fucking year?
Yeah, I mean, it has a history to it. So when you go back to the original wide receiver coach before Brian Hartline, it was Zach Smith, and Zach Smith was the wide receiver coach for a number of years with Urban Meyer down in Florida. So you're going back to the Percy Harvin days. You follow where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And so he comes to Ohio State. Yes. So once I said that, now you see what's been set in stone. And so he was here with Urban Meyer and all those Michael Thomas Juniors and a lot of those older guys who were here. Those guys get molded, shaped, and built from him. And when Urban left and his staff had left, Brian Hartline had a chance either to watch that or see that, and he's built on top of that. Basically, had a great career down in Miami, came and played in Cleveland for a number of years, had a very solid pro career, but he came and just basically built and added on. But the real driver of everything is actually Ryan Day. And what you're talking about with that, when you have these kids that come out of Ohio State, and they end up going to the professional ranks. They end up performing very well, and they're prepared, and they're professionals, and they know how to practice, play, sleep, eat, and do all of those things. When you get to Ohio State and you understand the day-to-day culture, and the fact that Ryan was with the Eagles and was with the 49ers, he runs a professional practice, be it with coaches, be it with assistants, be it with the weight training program. And I know that there's a lot of colleges who try to mimic professional environments in some areas, but he's done a phenomenal job with how guys prepare, how they practice, and just how they recruit, just the type of character and personality from those guys. If you look at Jackson Smith and Jigba, Emeka, Garrett Wilson, a lot of those guys, they have the same personality. And so for those reasons, and I'm down there, I can say this now, I'm down there 2 days a week. I'm down there Tuesdays, Thursdays, and I go to every game on Saturday. And so you see it day in and day out. And if you looked at the quarterback position with CJ Stroud, and you look at all of these players are very similar in personality. So I really give more credit to Ryan Day than one individual. But Brian Hartline was able to build upon what Zach Smith has put in place, and those guys have been doing phenomenal.
Man, that's so crazy to hear, just the change from one coach to another, and then the consistency where it's still just elite talent after elite talent. Like, dude, if you just look at the money, right? Like, these wide receivers have all gotten $100+ million deals. Jackson Smith and
Yep.
Jigba and Egbuka just got into the league. They're gonna be $35+ million a year wide receivers as well. And it's just so crazy to me, dude, because like, I'm a huge soccer fan, right? And there's just a couple of teams in the world that just always produce that one position better than all other countries. It's like defenders with Italy. It's like, oh, this guy's Italian, he's gonna be sensational. French players that are attacking minded, it's like, bro, this guy he's 19 years old, he's gonna win the Ballon d'Or, which is like the best player in the world one day. And then I think of it like on the flip side, how the culture, you always talk about the culture when you go on It Is What It Is, and even on your show, Start With The Facts, which airs 5 days a week. It's really interesting. And as I've gotten older, dude, I feel like I weigh less on the rings argument. I used to be a big rings guy, but then I'm like, man, so much shit has to happen in order for me to win a championship. I got to stay healthy. My owner got to be competent. The GM got to put a good team around me. My coach got to not be a moron and calling dumbass plays and put us in position to thrive and be successful. Then my teammates got to all stay healthy. The pass interference got to get called for me, where last year it didn't get called for me. Like, there's so much stuff that happens, right? And then when I think about like the culture at Ohio State, or even just like teams across the board, on a funny moment, it used to be when Greg Popovich was the coach for the Spurs, anytime they drafted an international player, you were like, oh, that guy's going to be an all-star. They just know. But every other team, dude, I'm a Knicks fan, right? Every other team that drafted a Euro guy or international guy, they're like, oh my God, they watched some YouTube highlights and now they love him, right? But it's like, if the Spurs do it, you're cool with it.
He's a star.
He's going to be a star, right? So that's what I think about with like wide receivers at Ohio State. You know, like obviously everyone's talking about Jeremiah Smith. Good.
You know, they have Chris Henry Jr. coming in next year as well.
Oh my.
And so he's the number one. He's the number one receiver in the nation. But the success and the culture ends up attracting more guys like that. And so the machine ends up feeding itself. You know what I mean? And so we'll be having the same conversation next year. He's 6'6". Jeremiah Smith is 6'4", and you have a number of guys who just want to be coached and want to be developed here. So I don't see it happening or stopping anytime soon. And if he comes and he has success, what do you think that's going to say about the younger guys who are coming up in America, that they have to get to Ohio State, they have to take that talent, and then when you're a good coach, coaching great talent already, the likelihood that you'll perpetuate, what you've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years is just going to go on.
Yeah, dude, that's a really good point. It's like it's just a breeder's system of wide receivers. If you want to be that guy at wide receiver, you got to go to Ohio State, right? It's like a kid again, to bring up soccer. We got the World Cup coming next summer, so I've started diving into like my soccer stuff, Mo. And you look at like soccer in the US, it's still nowhere near where it should be, in my opinion. But you see a kid that's 14, 15 years old, and you're like, man, that dude has it. You got to send them to Europe. Forget school, homeschool them. If he wants to really be one of those guys, he got to go play over there. Like, that's the measuring stick, and that's where you got to go. It's kind of the same way. If you're a kid in high school right now, how could you not want to go to Ohio State? You look at all these guys, you see them play on Sundays. They're number one wide receivers. There's like 8 of them that are Ohio State guys that are number one wide receivers. Then you think of the money now with NIL, and then the money that they're making the big leagues. It's like, dude, how could you not? It'd be a foolish mistake to not go to a place like Ohio State. And then again, I just love my favorite show of the week on It Is What It Is, dude. And I've told you this on the record, off the record, and I'll say it again for my audience. It's when you're on, because you bring out conversations that I think are way more opinionated than like stat driven. And it really opens up people on the show. And you always talk about culture. And one thing, I'm so pissed that Brian Callahan got fired, because I shot a video in June, bro, of Mike McDaniel being the first coach fired. He was 20-1. You could actually bet on this stuff, Mo. I don't know if you knew that. On who's
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Listen, I think getting fired as an NFL and college coach might be the best jobs to get fired from.
Yes.
Because like James Franklin's going to make $50 million still, which is a whole nother conversation.